Welcome back to another episode of Total Disruption. I am Dr. Jake Clendenning on behalf of the Michael Labersi here with Go Borenstein today. We're talking about trust in the AI world, trust in leadership. And you guys know I love this conversation because this is all what we're about. Go's got a couple of books out. He's got one that we want to talk about today, Don't Believe the Hype. And he's got a new one, which you can see his books on the background and behind him. Well, if you're on here, otherwise I'll tell you. Beating Goliath with AI. That's the one we're going to talk about a little bit later. So, Go, tell us a little bit more about you this morning. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. The short story is I started an advertising agency 30 years ago with the idea that our company is going to specialize in the small to middle market technology companies before the big boom of the internet and everything else that followed. And the idea was that there were not a lot of agencies on the media side that really understood technology or even tried to understand it because they stopped at, what looks good, what sounds good, but they didn't have an understanding that the world is about to change. That was basically the point where I felt that if we are able to help CEOs in the companies of engineers that don't have marketing departments at the time, and even now it has not changed that dramatically. You might have 5 to 15 people, even at the biggest organization, that we will have an opportunity. So fast forward, we're able to start with the small to mid-sized companies. And then over the years, larger companies came to us and say, how do you do it faster? How do you do it better? And most importantly, how do you kind of make it authentic so our campaign doesn't go to the trash can? And the answer was think strategically, create measurements and metrics that kind of benchmark what it is that you're trying to do. And then most importantly, what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then measure it with KPIs that always change, but at least have an idea where you are based on results or lack of results or outcomes, which give you the opportunity to really say, why, how do we fix it? And really kind of fast forwarding to today, we are one of the top 50 B2B agencies in the US. And most importantly, we're in the Washington, D.C. area, so we're very blessed in the sense that because of the Department of Defense, which needs innovation in pretty much everything that you can think about in the commercial world, cybersecurity, analytics, AI, drones, right? And there's all these small to mid-sized companies that have genius CEOs who are running them, and they need help articulating sometimes what it is that they actually do or how to present it to a business decision maker that isn't the technician, but is looking for the business outcomes. So we're having fun, and it's not easy. It's a specialization, but all in all, the fact that we're able to kind of niche ourselves, that's really kind of made the company successful. And starting every year with clients that have been with us sometimes for 10 to 15 years, when the average in the industry is 2 to 3, I think that says something. And I'm very proud of it.
And you should be. I mean, longevity with clientele and I'll go back and I'll say KPIs for everybody. If anybody that doesn't know a KPI, key performance indicators, and it's
Yes.
really numbers that you're tracking. Whether if we're going back to household budget, right? A KPI is how much money am I spending on groceries? How much did I spend on going out to eat? It's numbers that you're tracking in order to say, okay, is that working? Where do I need to change? Do I need to adjust? When we're talking about KPIs in sales, you're talking about conversion rates between how many phone calls do I have to make to how many appointments do I get to how many sales do I make. A KPI is critical. Whatever the thing is you're tracking, it's absolutely critical. So I wanted to point that out. And to Gold's point, his KPI, he's got clients that are with him 10 to 15 years that are there that are happy. And the reason they're there is because they trust him. They trust the agency. They trust the process. They trust what's going on. And that is, I love that in what you're doing. I mean, that is absolute social proof in the fact that what you're doing is the right way. So I also love that you were talking about a leader that's not a technician. I kind of giggled in the background about that. That's so many of us. That is so many of us running the businesses because we can't be everything in our business. It's not possible. We have a skill set. We have a lane we should stay in, and we should be hiring out for those other things. So I'm not a technician, plain and simple. I can't write code. That's not even a remote thing. I can ask a Google and I can ask AI to write some code for me, but I have no idea what it's doing. Like it's not my wheelhouse. It's not my jam. So I would be one of those. I would be one of the leaders in the organization that's not a technician, and I have to trust that other people are. So I
Yes.
absolutely appreciate that.
Yes, and to add to what you say, Jake, I always tell people I don't think I'm the original person that said that, but uh, the company basically needs to be you are the sale. So no matter what it is, people buy from people. Even when they buy an integrated AI supply chain management software, there's a person on each side. And if you're unable to really make the human connection, which again is another definition for trust and imbuing trust, you are likely to be number 3 to number 10 when they just put it in an Excel sheet and compare companies. So it's personality, but it's human interaction and the right human interaction.
I completely agree with you. And it's still going to be. I mean, that's what's driving business forward. Yes, is AI helping us go faster? You bet. You bet. It's helping in a lot of spaces. And we're still a herd animal. I mean, you can go back to basic biology. We need that connection. We need that relationship. We've got to have that person to person energy that's always going to exist. And in my opinion, it should not be replaced synthetically in any, that's just where I am. So let's talk about your first book. Let's talk about Don't Believe the Hype. Kind of lay that one out for us. When did you write that one? Give us the whole shooting match on that.
Well, don't believe the hype when trust is on the line, which is the full name of it, really kind of came to me last year and was published really the first week of 2025, and is still very, very relevant because I started by asking the question, having all this experience working with companies and seeing when to fail, when they succeed, and especially with the introduction of digital marketing and digital communications, the word company culture is becoming something that people are using. And with the advent of social media, where companies used to own the narrative and they could hide whatever are the flaws behind closed doors, or at least with NDAs, now it doesn't exist anymore. And CEOs and companies that have leaders that are either living in the darkness, if you will, of not knowing that there's a glass door out there where your employees could trash your company. And when you're trying to recruit the same ilk of people, you're not able to do that because they don't believe the recruiter in your company or the HR campaign that you're doing. They believe the disgruntled employee that may be completely off base, but that's really what works in terms of that. So the book really is about three things. Is about waking up people to understand that with AI and digital, you got to be prepared on the outside. And the second is creating kind of a framework and understanding that there are really kind of three pivot points or centers that you really got to pay attention to. The first is executive management. If there's no trust when you go into an executive management meeting, because everybody has an agenda and nobody should be getting along with each other unless it's a friendship from a long time. But when you go into a meeting and when the CEO asks a question, how are we doing? If people don't trust each other because they have different points of data that they don't share, that trust breaks down. and it becomes like a little um, chain of banana republics, if you will, that live together until a big dictator like Maduro basically comes and say, there's only one truth and it's my truth because I'm the CEO. So that's really kind of an important part. And the second is understanding that employees are no longer assets that are hiding on the desk. They're really kind of the ones that create the corporate culture. And in most companies, the new generations that are coming were born with an iPhone, were born with Wikipedia, were born with third-party validation tools, and most importantly, because they live in an anonymous posting world, they really can say whatever they want without repercussions, and that's really changing the game. And the third is, what do you do when you need to basically create something that will be trusted? And I call it the Trust Index and the Guardian, which is a kind of a framework to help connect the dots between those things.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I've seen it, I've seen it very much through 2025. A lot of businesses that I've spoken to that are talking about, hey, we need to get AI integrated right away, right? They're talking about this. And in the next phrase, they say, but everything's proprietary. So we need to build something closed door, closed system, closed loop that doesn't have access to the rest of the world. And they're using tools like Otter AI. And I'm not complaining about anyone in particular, but they're only using AI to its absolute bare minimum that it can be, and they're still trying to operate in closed doors because they're still trying to hide. Like there's an aspect of, in order for, I've heard this said, and I'll look it up at some point and tell you who said it. In order to trust someone, in order for someone to trust us, we must first trust them. So therefore, if our employees and our clients, our consumers, whoever they are, if we want them to trust us, we have to trust them first. Therefore, we cannot close the doors and try to black out everything about our company. If we are, then we're probably doing something out of integrity that's not in integrity. Like we're doing something different. So, why not let your employees use open source AI? Nobody has anything that proprietary that, that AI can't find at this point from elsewhere. So just, man, we got to open our minds up as CEOs and executives. We've got to go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to trust that the world can see inside. They can see through the glass door. It's not a one-sided mirror. We're not in an FBI chamber. Like they can see us. Everybody can see what we're doing. So there's no reason not to say, fine. Let's let everybody use the tools we need to use, and that demonstrates trust, right? If we're open book about everything we do, that's demonstrating trust to our consumers. That's going to get longevity in the fact that they're going to stay with us as a client. They're going to refer more people to us. They're going to stay longer. They're going to upsell. They're going to do all the things that make us have a business. Because if we're not doing that, all we have is a very expensive hobby. We don't really have a business at that point. I love that. So let's get into beating Goliath. Let's start rolling down that road. This is a new book that came out. You just finished this one and rolled it out. So tell us about beating Goliath with AI.
Yes, and the first book really kind of dealt with leaders of corporate America, and really kind of the focus of uh, beating Goliath with AI is really focused on the fact that there are uh, hundreds of thousands of companies all over the world, or thousands of companies in the US that are basically considered small businesses. And in small businesses, typically the CEO or the owner or the founders of the company really kind of trying to understand what to do with AI right now in terms of supply chain, in terms of finance, but mainly marketing. And how do you basically control the narrative in the new environment? And the book really kind of focuses on tools that I can give the readers and the owners of these companies little hacks to use AI tools to achieve their objective, and then kind of beating Goliath because Goliath is too big. And, it only take AI slingshots to make them feel very uncomfortable, and beat the competition. It could be, for example, how do you take a company that you're competing against that might have a great product at a great price, but has a horrible customer service, follow up, the post sale? Well, if you're a company that has that situation and experience it, uh, the thing that I recommend is map out their customer service experience and the buyer's journey and see where they are lacking. Because if you can pick up clients by basically creating a map and then getting their feedback, you can hack into that promise that the big company is making and find out that most of the time the big company is basically covering up something. I also focus on the idea that we don't longer own the narrative as we used to. So it's not a one-way communication, which means if you're able to kind of capture that niche, that opportunity, and use AI to basically multiply the productivity in what you're doing, or I'll give you a crazy example, which is a cheesemaker shop and basically tried to grow, and then they were basically crushed by the Trader Joe's, by all the other kind of very large chains of supermarkets and grocery stores that were able to offer everything for a dollar, metaphorically. And then there was a cheese store, and that cheese store owner says, I sculpt cheese. This is my life. This is my passion. I'm an artist with cheese, which made me giggle at the beginning. And I said, show me what you got. And the bottom line of that story was that he didn't know how to tell the story. And by basically using AI tools that, for example, allowed him to do the market research about what niches should he go after. So, for example, there's Italian cheese, there is Swiss cheese, there's Spanish cheese, French. All these different types of brands uh, don't have the same quality. So, how do you do that? You find people that like cheese. How will you find people that like cheese or are connoisseurs or influencers of cheese, basically, in a day or a week or a month? In real world, without AI, the answer would be 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 months, and 2 or 3 people basically spending all day trying to make phone calls, to get voicemails, and recall again, and to find that information. So now we have a tool that can automate and enable the Davids of the world to use those AI slingshots to basically find what is the kind of point of weakness that larger companies have to convert that into success. And that's really kind of where, to me, it's kind of a continuation of the last book, because the first book was the big guys, but the smaller guys are not really small. They should be called niche players. And if you can niche yourself and brand yourself around niching and gain the trust of a population that suddenly has 50 influencers that just went to your store and loved the cheese so much that they want to tell everyone and create word of mouth, you can grow really fast. And then you go to a trade show and meet distributors, and suddenly your business blows up in a good way.
I love the analogy here, Gul. I love the fact that you've switched the narrative around AI on this one a little bit. And I want to point this out to people if they didn't catch it. You've got the niche players who are the Davids, right? You've got the niche players who are the Davids, and you've got and I'm seeing David and Goliath references coming up left and right lately. I'm not exactly sure why, but man, am I seeing that a lot. So I just love that this plays into that. And Goliath is the established large businesses, and AI is the slingshot. No one has brought that up as a concept yet. This AI has been put out there almost as the Goliath. It has been thrown out there as you can't compete with AI, but you changed that conversation. I think this is absolutely brilliant that small business owners are the niche players and the large established businesses are the Goliaths. And in order to compete with them, you've got to use AI as the slingshot. It's not the rock, it's the slingshot. And I think that's just a brilliant analogy with this. So in the last couple minutes here, so one, let's get to this. Where can they get your books? So don't believe the hype and beating Goliath with AI. Where can they get your books, Cole?
It's very simple. You can go on Amazon.com or Barnes and Nobles or any of the premier bookstores and pick it up. If you want to communicate with me or ask me a question, you can go to LinkedIn and look for Gal Borenstein and ask to connect. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of Gal Borensteins with a name that sounds kind of a little funny for Americans. So I learned to live with it as an immigrant to the country. And that's really kind of a good place, LinkedIn, because you can actually connect with people, create that authenticity of the connection, and know that you're not talking to a robot, which is actually the bad thing that is happening even to LinkedIn, which we love and respect. The more selling tools they have, the lack of authenticity exists.
Yep. So everybody that's watching on E360, you can see how the spelling of the name is laid out. But I'm going to spell it for you for everybody that's listening. Gull is spelled Gal, and Borenstein is Borenstein. Gull Borenstein. So you should be
Yes.
able to find him on LinkedIn, but I want to make sure they had that spelling so it's easy for them to find you. And that way you can also see that's the author. If you look that up on author on Amazon, it's going to bring up all of his books, which is fantastic. So, all right, so let's do this. We always like to leave our audience with something actionable. What's your favorite AI tool? What's your favorite AI slingshot right now? I'm going to keep going with that analogy. I love that. I'm totally going to steal that, and I'm going to be saying it all the time. So if you hear me say it, go said it first. What's your favorite AI slingshot right now?
The best one is actually the modules that allow you, whether it's ChatGPT or OpenAI or Perplexity, Claude. Claude is much better at reasoning and market research. When you need to do market research and you need to reach out to stuff that used to be in libraries and would take weeks to get the information that you're looking for, I found both Claude and OpenAI being great tools to at least start by asking, what are the things that I need to ask? Then what are the things that you don't have answers to, like you're having a conversation? And finally, taking that information and asking for preliminary data. The one advice I will give everyone, regardless of what tool you're using within those systems or modules, if you will, is always ask AI if the information that was provided was verified. And when you ask AI, is what you gave me a crap or actually accurate information with a citation to a URL that I can check, you will find that 80% of the time they will tell you that that wasn't true. I apologize. They apologize. The AI tools apologize and say, let me do it again and give you the right information. Don't fall into AI hallucinations. Use it as a very smart person that take the knowledge that exists in the world, but then you still have to drive the wagon, if you will, and make sure that you are kind of leading the process and make executive decisions about what is true and what is something that is not feasible for your business.
Agreed. Yeah. So validate and verify. One of my favorite ways to do that is if I use two separate AIs to do the same thing, and I will pull information from one, I'll put it into the other, and I'll ask it to validate it. Is this true? Or I won't say is this true because that's a yes or no question. It's a bad one. What is true? What is accurate? What needs to be updated? Where can I go see it? But if I cross reference them, I am forcing them I'm teaching them to be more honest, because then I'll bring
Yeah.
it back and say, hey, I validated this in a different system. This is what it found. So what it's doing is it's helping to build the knowledge base that it's giving me accurate information. So absolutely true. And I got that advice. Honestly, I got that from my brother-in-law, when AI was, it was a fledgling, absolute a baby, and he was using it for a lot of research tools. And he said the thing to do is always question it. Question it
Yeah.
every time you get an answer.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant, and Gull's absolutely right.
Yeah. And the machine learning really is the part of AI that once you have the right information, get vacuumed back into the system. And then next time, or collectively, we're going to get better information. The only thing that
Agreed.
it can do, if I have another 30 seconds or so, is really the fact that you always need to have cognitive and psychological ability to make decisions that are based on human behavior, not based on a robot. A robot can give you the how and the kind of the what, but it cannot change the fact that if it's your idea, it's your business, it's your opportunity, it needs to be based on your leadership. And the leadership could mean being a professor at a university, or a CEO of a technology company.
Totally agree with you. Gull, this has been great today. Thank you so much. Gull Borenstein, Beating Goliath with A, and Don't Believe the Hype. You can get on Amazon, and you can connect with Gull on LinkedIn. On behalf of Michael Laversi, I am Dr. Jake Clendenning. It is your turn to disrupt.